My name is Leslie Malcolm Streeter. I was born February 1929, makes me roughly 90 years old. I was in the police force for 30 years, which is the stipulated time you have to serve. Not nowadays, this is going back a bit, but in my time, you didn't actually sign a contract, but you knew that if you were going to hope for a pension, you had to do 30 years without losing your, well, you'd like your copybook a bit, I suppose, but you had to do 30 years service. And after 30 years service, you were given a 2/3 pension, which in my case, I managed the rank of traffic chief inspector. And that gave me a good enough pension to live all these years without working. So, since retired from the police, other than doing a few voluntary things, I haven't worked for money, shall we say. I was married to a Pamela until 2015, and then she had a bleed on the brain and unfortunately died. And I've been on my own ever since. I was born in Ramsgate, Kent, and what was it? Number 256 Upper Dumpton Park Road. There's a mouthful, isn't it, eh? I can remember that. And then when we were about 6, something like that, my father, when we were in Kent, he was a gas welder and heavy soldering he did. And he breathed all the fumes from that into his lungs, so I'm sure that killed him at 56. Yeah, that's another story. And he obviously got another job, still in doing the same sort of thing, metal work, the piece of metal, he could do anything with it. But he went to work for a firm in Wimbledon in Surrey, so we moved to 36 Crosfield Avenue, New Malden. And that was done. We stayed there then 1936 until, well, I suppose I lived just a normal life. The one thing I do remember about New Malden was my father was a great fan of Reginald Dixon, who played the Wurlitzer organ at cinemas. You wouldn't know that. Anyway, so if ever that Reginald Dixon was on the bill at a cinema, we went. It didn't matter what the film was about, as long as you could watch Reginald Dixon play this organ. And the last one I can remember was we went to, I think it was in Morden, M-O-R-D-N, to the cinema that had a Wurlitzer organ, and Reginald Dixon was playing. And my sister and I went with my mum and dad, and the film was The Face at the Window. Blooming horror film it was. So that frightened us a bit, especially then when we went to bed. And my dad came in and put the shutters up, and because in those days at the house already, at night you shut the wooden shutters inside dining room and put a big bar across, and that was it. It was safe as houses. But we were still thinking about this face in the window, and we didn't have a very good night's sleep that night. I left school at 14. I was dead keen on mechanics in those days. I had 2 or 3 motorbikes in that time, old motorbikes. Well, in their day they weren't bad. And so when I left school, I went to a garage in Aldershot. That's where we were living. We were living in Ashley, Surrey, but it's near Aldershot. And I started an apprenticeship. But when I was 17 and a half, I volunteered for the services. And if you volunteered before you were 18, then you got the option to choose which service you went into. And I'd always wanted to go to the Navy. Don't ask me why, but that's what I wanted. So I joined the Navy. And I only did 2 years. I had a denob number of, because it was just after the war, a denob number of 78 by denob number. And the last denob number that they ever issued was 80. Life is completely different to it's completely different to what it was a few years ago. But it's got to be like that because everything changes. And as you go along, if you look back at old films and you see how they lived in the early 20s and things like that, and you wonder how they got on. They never had this, they never had that. Well, I can say, of course, I can't shout too much because as a boy, we lived in a 2-bedroom semi house. Yeah, what they called? Anyway, don't matter. I lived in this house in a village called Ash, which was just outside Aldershot. And the house had 2 bedrooms, living room, sitting room, and in the living room there was an old range type fire, beautiful. Got a big oven on one side, and my mother used to clean that up with black lead or polish it up. And she cooked most of our dinners on that. Well, we had a gas stove in the kitchen, or scullery as it was called in those days. It also had a built-in boiler in the kitchen, in the corner, which you fill with water, put your washing in, and lit a fire underneath it in the kitchen. So it was it was the norm then. I mean, not many people. Oh, no flush toilets. The toilet was in part of this big shed we had outside, and you had to go out to the shed, do what you had to do. And then every Tuesday, I think it was, the wagon used to come round and the bucket men would come and take the bucket from your shed and obviously slop it all about all over the place. But after they'd been round, it stank in that road for ages. And they put the bucket back and you were away again. So, I wouldn't say that was, it's a sign of the times, because a lot of places they've had main drainage, but of course most of those homes had, what they call tank in the ground, didn't they? married at 19. I caught him on watches. She was one of 4 sisters who lived just at the back of me. And I tried all of them, all 4. Beryl, she was the eldest. I didn't get much of a look at her because she was already caught in a bit with someone from Farnborough, who eventually she married. But she did well because he was, what was he? Deputy Director of the War Office of the British Embassy. So he had a good job and earned good money. And they also went to 2 stints to America. They had 3 years, a 3-year stint each time, and he worked in the British Embassy. And we were lucky enough for her sister to say one day, get the fare to America and come out for a month. I'll look after you with my entertainment allowance that she was getting. So we promptly did that. Yes, I've got one grandson, Daniel, and he's married to Vicky, and she's got a boy and a girl. The boy Reese, he's 10 or 11, and the little bugger she was as a little baby. Sorry, I swore. And but she turned out, as kids do, as they go a bit older, she's quite a nice little girl. There is, I'm thinking of her name. It shows that. But my eldest son, he didn't marry until late, and he, tell a lie now, he did marry, but it didn't last more than a few months, I don't think. And then he was on his own for ages, and finally he met a woman who'd already had 3 boys, grown up, I might add, so there were no hardship for him. And so that's my side of the story.